Hello, everyone, and good evening. Thanks for joining us in our expert talk for the day. I hope I'm sounding clear to each one of you here. I'm Anamika, and I welcome you all to today's webinar or Insights and Practices to Run Business on Azure. Cloud migration is a tech priority for most companies, and it is worth almost $1 trillion as per McKinsey's last research. Today is all about uncovering cloud technology that's Azure. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker, Mr. Gopal Das. He's an experienced corporate trainer for Azure, DevOps, and cloud technologies like AWS, and has more than 17 years of experience in different DevOps and Azure technologies. Till now, he has also conducted more than 2,000 corporate training for corporates like Capgemini, Cognizant, Oracle, JP Morgan, and many more. So without wasting any further time, I would now like to welcome Sir and give the floor to him for the session. Thanks a lot. And we'll also conduct a Q&A session at the end. So please ask your questions when you're available. Sir, you may continue.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. This is Gopal.
Hi, Ekta. Can you help, please, Sir, for sharing his screen? He's unable to do it.
Sure, Anamika, let me check. Yeah. Gopal sir, you can share your screen now.
Yeah. My name is Gopal Das. I will be the speaker for today for Azure. Now, you know that there is a huge digital transformation is going on. Every organization, and from the time the pandemic has started, now there is no other solution left. Like everyone is sitting, working from home, and every organization need a way. Like once the pandemic has been started a year back, they like organization, currently those organization who is working on on-prem environment, now they find out that it is very difficult to work with on-premises environment. They are looking for a solution. They are looking for a solution where anyone can work from anywhere in the world. It may be its home, or it may be he's sitting somewhere and he can work on it. Okay. Now to do the same, The only option left out, like the only option left out is they need to go to the cloud. When we talk about cloud, so in simple term, cloud is nothing. It's like we are using somebody else's infrastructure and running our workload on top of it. And for past couple of years, like 80% of workload has been migrated to cloud. When I say 80% workload has been migrated, it may be some of the workload has been migrated to Azure, some of the workload has been migrated to AWS. I give you a simple example. Like around 8 years back, when I used to work with General Electricals in US. So suddenly, my boss comes to me. He told me that we are planning to move to the cloud. I say that it is a very good idea, but they want a simple migration policy where they can easily move to the cloud. Now I say that it is okay, we can move to the cloud anytime. But within 1 year, what GE has done, they shut down all the data center around the world. Except 9 data center, they move everything to the cloud. Now the movement from on-prem to the cloud, there is no issue comes, and the performance, what the performance they used to get it by moving to the cloud, it has been increased manifold. Not only that, the biggest benefit they are getting is they previously every updates required a downtime in the evening, but because of the cloud, they avoid those downtime. Plus, the cost of managing those physical data centers with all the different activity has been reduced till around, their cost has been reduced more than 50%. Plus, they reduce the downtime, first thing. Second thing is economical. Not only that, the third thing is that whenever they used to do data analytics on some medical field, like GE Medical want to do some data analytics. Previously, like for genome mapping, they used to take 1 week to do single mapping. But because of the cloud, they do it in 4 hours. Not only that, previously they used to have a huge hardware and software and so many licensing costs. Using that, they used to migrate it. But because of the cloud, the costing goes 10% compared to what they used to do it, and they reduce the pricing. Not only that, we thought that because of disruption, what will this pandemic situation, what will happen to our existing infrastructure? Those infrastructure also being migrated to the cloud. When we talk about cloud, so we come from a long distance. Like we started from PC, like from desktop. Then we moved to internet where all the PCs are being connected. And finally, cloud era has come. When I say cloud era, means on-demand productivity and hybrid flexibility. When I say on-demand productivity and hybrid flexibility, it means that everything in the cloud is on demand. When you need it, you create it. When you don't need it, you terminate it. So that way, what will happen is that you can reduce the costing in the cloud plus reduce the utilization. Okay. Like you have seen that a lot of data analytics is happening. Previously, if you try to do data analytics, it takes months to do it. Okay. Nowadays, because of cloud, you can do it in an hour. Now, when we talk about cloud computing, it is being referred to as on-demand provisioning of computational resources like data, software, and computer networking. Now, when I'm talking about this data, software, computer networking, in simple term, what does it mean? It means that previously you need specialized manpower who can manage your data. You need specialized manpower who you need to manage the software. You need specialized manpower to manage the computer networking. But because of cloud, everything has been simplified. When I say everything has been simplified, means down the layer, what is happening, we need not to worry about it. Only thing is, we need to focus on our operation, not on down the line that I need to manage this hardware, I need to manage this software. Plus, licensing become a challenge for every organization. But when I move to the cloud, I need not to worry about licensing. There in the cloud, we have something called as pay-as-you-go model. When I say pay-as-you-go model, means you use the service, it's like a rental model, and you pay for the license also on the hourly basis. So what Gartner is saying that there is hardly, when you talk about cloud, okay, there is hardly very few people has been denied of the cloud, okay. There is more than 72% of acceptance, more than 72% of acceptance, and nowadays it has been increased to more than 80% that people are accepting cloud. When we are talking about cloud acceptance, it's not like that everything we will move it to the cloud. Everything will be moved to the cloud. There are some infrastructure which cannot be moved to the cloud, but you can create an hybrid cloud using on-prem and the cloud environment. Like you can, if you have heard about Samsung Pay. So what Samsung Pay is doing, all their front-end application is running on top of a cloud, but their all the transactional workload and everything is running on top of their on-premises environment. Because in the cloud, they need not to worry about downtime, they need not to worry about bandwidth crunch, nothing. Everything is faster compared to on-prem environment. So when you want to move to the cloud, these are the some question you should ask. Like, if I move to the cloud, who has access to my data? Are they certified to operate in a compliant environment? When I say who has access to my data, means like people get scared that if I move my data to the cloud, it may be leaked or anyone is going to access my data. No. Any cloud service provider, data security is the primary concern. Then when we talk about are they certified to operate in a compliant environment? When I say are they certified to operate in a compliant environment, means compliance is one of the biggest challenge in the cloud. When I say compliance is a biggest challenge, means your organization is having HIPAA compliance. Like if it is in insurance sector, if it is in financial sector, it will be like you will have some PCI DSS compliant. And if it is a federal bank or anything, they should have FedRAMP. Okay. So you need not to worry about those compliance. The reason behind every cloud service provider, they provide you with compliance certification. When you move your workload to the cloud, every cloud service provider provide you with the compliant certificate, like HIPAA compliant, PCI DSS compliant. If it is European Union, they have their own compliance. Like if it is in Germany, they have their own data compliance. So every cloud provider is providing you with the compliance. Now, where is my data stored? That is also one of the interesting thing in the cloud. Okay. When I talk about where is my data stored, every cloud service provider has presence in every region, because nowadays every country has made it like you should not store your data out of the country, like it may be financial or human data. So that is the reason cloud service provider are investing and they are creating data center around the world. How my data isolated? That is always isolation is there. And what happen if there is a problem? When I say what happen if there is a problem, hardly once, like every cloud service provider give you some SLA, service level agreement, where like if it is Azure, they give you 95.55% of data reliability plus updation of your data, or what I can say is that means related to your whole infrastructure, they give you 95.55%. Sometimes in some of the service they give you 99% also. Depends upon what type of service you are running. Always there is a legal available. Everything is legalized in Azure or any cloud service provider. There is always a vendor history available and how the product roadmap. These are the some question you should ask before you move to the cloud. When I talk about is the cloud for everyone, we don't know, but one or the other way we are using cloud. When I say one or the other way, like I am using Office, MS Office. That also comes from the cloud nowadays, Office 365. Some of you are using Gmail. They are also coming from the cloud. Okay. So some of the cloud are on premises, some of them are online. Okay. Like nowadays, like we are talking to each other using this Zoom meetings. It also comes from one cloud. BI, you can build, content management is being managed using cloud, collaboration, search. So there are two types of things available nowadays. One is either on premises, either cloud. But the third thing comes on premises and cloud together, that is called as hybrid cloud. When we talk about hybrid cloud, okay, they are required common identity. Like if you want to, like they have identity federation, like you can use utility like DO identification, or you can use something called as CyberArk. Using that, you can log in into the cloud also, you can log into the on-premises, same ID. And plus, you need to ensure that integration management and security should be there between the cloud and on-premises environment also. And they should have a consistent data platform. When I say consistent data platform, like in your cloud, you are running a Windows workload. On premises, you are running an Linux workload. But they should have a consistency. It is not like that I am running on premises a Windows 2000 server, and in the cloud I am running an Windows 2016 server, and they can talk to each other. It should not be like that. And unified development and DevOps. Now, when we talk about cloud, so nowadays all the application you are building, they are like cloud native application. Means mostly being created for cloud native app. Means I can easily deploy those application in any of the cloud service provider. And when we talk about Azure, Azure is the only consistent hybrid cloud. Why? Why we think that Azure is the only consistent hybrid cloud? Because of only one thing, that is Active Directory. So if you have an on-premises Active Directory, which is you use to communicate with your environment, you can easily integrate that Active Directory with Azure. You can easily integrate the same with Azure. Means on-premises Active Directory, every organization has it for logging into the system. The same Active Directory I can integrate with Azure. Then the Azure Management and Security. You can easily integrate Azure Management and Security with on-premises infrastructure. Azure has data services. When I say data services, I have an on-premises SQL server. I want to integrate with Azure, means I want to store all the data from on-premises to Azure. You can easily do it. Then they have Azure Services and Azure Stack. Azure Services are the fully managed service. When I say Azure Services, like you develop an application on premises. Once I develop that application on premises using any of the Azure tool, and I want to directly deploy it in the Azure, I can easily do it. There are integration tools available. Using that, easily I can migrate my application from on premises to the cloud anytime. So when we talk about clouds, okay, simple. It goes from physical to virtual, virtual to private cloud we created, and finally we got the public cloud. So most of the technology you are saying, like Windows desktop, previously, like I want to try a Windows desktop. So maybe on premises, I don't have availability, but in the cloud, like if you go to Azure, you can deploy a Windows 10 desktop anytime. Plus personal productivity, you can have Office 365 online. So using that, you can do email, you can do collaboration. Azure also have mobile device security. You can deploy business application like CRM and ERP on top of, and Azure Apps is also there. There are so many things available. Like you think about anything, Azure always have it. Okay. When we talk about Azure Office 365, it is an enterprise grade cloud where all the productivity means you can integrate with your employees anytime. And it has also good support. Beyond Office 365, there are two things, that is infrastructure as a service and platform as a service. When we talk about infrastructure as a service, so in cloud, like already I have an VM, I want to migrate that VM to the Azure. Very simple. I export the VM, import it in the cloud, and we can use it anytime. Platform as a service, that is also very important thing. When we talk about platform as a service, so there are so many things. Azure is like a platform as a service. When we talk about platform as a service, the simplest example, like Azure has something called as apps, where previously what happened, developer developed the code. Once they develop the code, they upload it, they share it with the operation team. Once they share it with the operation team, then it is being once they shared with the operation team, the next thing is the operation team going to deploy a server, then install all the dependencies, then they will ask questions to you, what else you need it, create a firewall to access the application. But Azure has made it simplified. They create something called as apps, where you just need to upload your code. Automatically, Azure will build the environment for you. Not only that, it is going to build it, it will also deploy it for you with an URL Using that, you can access it. Not only that, second time when you update it, like nowadays we work on sprint, so every time we make changes in the application. So second time when we upload, second time when we want to, second time when we update our application, I just need to upload the code and automatically the deployment will happen. When we talk about software as a service, where it is going to be fully managed by the cloud service provider. Office 365 is one of the example of software as a service. Then if you think about software as a service, like some of you heard about containerization, where nowadays the workload is moving to containers. When I say it is being moving to containers, means you can talk about Docker. So what happened is that Docker is one of the complex architecture around the world. Now, to manage those containerized environment, we required Kubernetes. Kubernetes is again one more complexity is there. But in Azure, it's like a single click installation. You just select a Kubernetes cluster, provide how many number of worker node you wanted, do next, everything will be deployed. That is one example. The other example, like I required a MySQL database. Azure has a fully managed service. Select the database, select the required RAM, how much processor do you want it, select what type of storage do you want it, and finally do next. Everything will be automatically deployed. Not only that, on the platform side, if the update or upgrade or anything comes, it will be done by the cloud service provider. So when we talk about on-premises private cloud, everything will be managed by us, like data, application, runtime, operation, virtual machine, compute, network, storage. When we talk about infrastructure as a service, storage, networking, compute will be managed by the cloud service provider. Like Amazon is like an infrastructure as a service. Azure also have infrastructure as a service. Other than that, VMs, OS, runtime, application, data, and access, you provision and you manage. And when we talk about platform as a service, everything will be managed by the cloud service provider. Only thing you are managing is data and application. Software as a service, like Office 365, Salesforce, where everything is going to be managed by the cloud service provider. You just need to manage. The software. So when we talk about what is Azure, when we talk about what Microsoft Azure contains, you can do data analytics, you get computing power like VMs, and you can use it for hybrid cloud, you can use it for databases. Archiving is one of the important things. Like every organization spend money on creating a DR site. When we talk about DR site, it's like a costly affair. Plus, we required manpower, we required a space, plenty of servers, storage, and everything. But nowadays, because of Azure, like you can use their file storage and blob storage, where you can store your data on the cloud. So once you store it in the cloud, the biggest benefit you are getting is they are managing it for you. They are giving you a guarantee of SLA. You can do app development, you can do mobile development on the cloud, you can do networking, you can do storage, you can do web-based development. And when we talk about Azure, it has more than 50 regions around the world. So why they have created so many regions? Because this way there will be no latency. And it is like a region. When we called about region, means a location. Inside that location, we have data centers. Not only that, we have edge site, which also work as a data centers, which is used for cache only location. So, and is this data center are being managed using a lot of security, like every person background is checked, system check, access approval. They have perimeter fencing, one defined access point, okay, plus two-factor authentication, 25 by security, and one person can enter. And in the server environment, so everywhere there is a security destruction bins, okay, like after some time they store, delete, they destroy your storage also. When we talk about compliance, these are the compliance available from the cloud service provider like ISO 27001, Cloud Security Alliance, NHS. All the organization like European Model Clauses, Argentina, Japan, CSA Star, Core Infrastructure, Advanced Workload Tools, Azure Stack, everything. All the services in Azure are being compliant. But the compliance is two-step. Azure provide you with the compliance, okay? The only thing is they will say that it is a two-step process, means they will give you compliance certificate, but on the basis of like you deploy all the compliant application, then only they are going to provide it. Now, when we talk about Azure infrastructure, they have Visual Studio Online, they have media service, media intelligence, encoding, all the media related, means you can do streaming. They have content delivery network. Then the biggest benefit in Azure you got it is password security. Like nowadays, a lot of application required password based authentication. It is not like that we have two-factor authentication on every application. They also, we need password based authentication. So Azure give you with a key vault. Like I frequently work on Kubernetes cluster, which is a container orchestration engine from Azure. Now, a lot of my application required password based authentication. I cannot provide key pair based authentication on those apps. Like I have a Tomcat based application, which is built on top of COBOL platform, okay, which is very high. It's difficult, means using screenshot we are transferring those application. Now those application required anyhow password based authentication. So in that type of scenario, using key vault, we are sharing the password, but it is 100% secure. Then they have app service, you could do mobile engagement, you can manage your API. They have notification hub. Then Azure AD is their multi-factor authentication, automatic backup. When we talk about automatic backup, means you store your data in one of the region in Azure, it will be automatically backed up to the another region, but that you need to provide it. It's not like that manually it will be done. Yeah, you have to tell Azure that I want to automatically just enable a service so that your data will be backed up between two different region. You can do site recovery, service business talk, then all these services are being managed remotely. You can do batch jobs, you can do SD inside. Azure has come up with machine learning. Like if you want to do some machine learning concept, Azure has a concept called as machine learning, using it's like a full-fledged platform. You can deploy your machine learning concept. You can do analytics, event hub. They have data factory also. Fully managed SQL database, warehousing, document DB. Document DB is like a MongoDB kind of thing. You can do search. Then in the networking part, they allow you with traffic manager, which is like a route based, dynamic routing based traffic management. You can do express routing, virtual networking. Then you can do DNS management using Azure. So these are the all the services. Means if you try to migrate your any of the application, like most of the startup, they never think about nowadays that I have to I have to build my own environment. None of the startup, why the startup functionality become successful? Because of the cloud only. Because none of the startup think about that they will create their data center, start deploying application, do all the activity, means create database and everything. Why startup become successful? Because of one reason. The reason is they always deploy their environment in the cloud. What they want is they want mobile app. It is there in the cloud. They plan to do streaming. Nowadays, small organization also doing streaming of the product. Previously, because of pandemic, I have seen that like there are a lot of organization who is very rigid. They don't want to move to the online platform. They don't want to do any they don't want to do any promotion or anything, but they have started it and they are doing it in the cloud only because they don't need to, like they have already manpower available who can manage those things. Okay, now they just simply need to log into the cloud, enable those service, and the promotion gets started. Means I need not to worry about I want this service. I have to talk to this vendor. They will come and give me the codes and everything. And then next I need to send it to the finance guy. Finance guy will approve it and it will within 1 month, the whole plan will go away. But in the cloud, I can easily go there and deploy my solution. Now on my solution, like I have started streaming platform. So if I started my streaming platform, I want that some geodynamic routing. When I say geodynamic routing, like who is nearest to the location, they can easily access the nearest data center. So Azure has created traffic manager. Using that, I can do a geodynamic routing. Then I want to, like I have some services running on one of the US East data center. Other services are running on US West data center. Previously, to integrate service from overseas location to this location, we used to create VPN connection, spend plenty of money on security, spend plenty of money on those routers, switches and everything. But in cloud, they have VNet option. Easily you can integrate them together. So you can easily divert your workload in the cloud, and when the site recovery happen, there will be no business. You can easily extend a network. You can easily host a web server. Plus, you got a desktop as a service. This is one of the interesting things you have it in Azure. Like it's like a VDI type of concept. Like lot of organization you have seen it. Like today only, like I'm a corporate trainer. I'm doing a training with IBM from the morning. It is like while talking to them, okay, I sometimes get need to know them what they are doing, like a monotonous, and otherwise if I do only teaching only and I don't ask them what is going on with their life, because it's like an online meeting. We are doing it. So I asked them that, do you people go to office? They are working for some European financial banking sector. So they are working for some European banking financial sector. Now, those financial banking sector, they have decided a place where people need to work, and it cannot be work from the home. They cannot work from home. So starting 3 months, they have faced a lot of problem. They take permission, go to there and work for some hour, then come back. So it become a challenge for them. Then they spoke to the CTO of that organization that this is the challenge. We cannot move easily. We cannot move easily to any of the location. Then the CTO, after having some talk with all the managers for some time. Okay, they come up with a solution that, okay, what we can do is we will give you a desktop. You log into that desktop, and from there you can log into our environment. So what they have done, they have deployed this desktop based application on top of Azure and connected. But those desktops are being deployed on those particular Germany location, and from there they are connecting to the local data center, and it is very fast, and they can easily access the on-premises environment anytime. Plus they got the compliance also. This is the biggest benefit, means on top of Azure you can easily deploy a Windows based OS anytime. And you will have an hybrid identity, means you can easily integrate your Active Directory, okay, with Azure, because 99% of the market, not 90%, yeah, it may be 90%, I can say. There are some companies who are now also on LDAP authentication, but 90% of the organization are now also in Active Directory. Okay, they do the authentication using AD only. So it is very easier for them to communicate with.
పిల్లల్ని ఏ కష్టం రాకుండా పెంచడం మంచిదే కానీ మనం పడే కష్టాలు తెలియకుండా పెంచడం మంచిది కాదు. ఎందుకంటే కష్టాలు తెలిసినప్పుడు వారికి జీవితం విలువ తెలుస్తుంది.
Hello, can someone mute themselves?
Chandramohan, can you? Thank you. So when we talk about identity, see, when we talk about cloud, security is one of the biggest concerns. Other than that, inside cloud, everything is smoother. There will be no downtime, nothing. You will easily spin up a virtual machine in 5 minutes. Not 5 minutes. If it is a Linux OS, it takes hardly 2 minutes. If it is a Windows, maximum 10 minutes, and your server will be up and running. The same activity, if you try to do it with on-premises, you spend around hours. That also you are not getting an updated machine. Again, you need to log in and update it. But then once you log in, update it, then the next thing is you need to integrate with your AD. But when we move to the cloud or deploy AD, means automatically any of the Windows machine you are deploying it in the cloud, automatically it will be connected to your Active Directory. And you can access all the service, means using a single sign-on, you can access on-premises environment also, you can access Azure services also, you can access all the different extra services like public cloud, software as a service, Office 365, everything can be accessible.
Gopal, Rajesh here. How are we ensuring that there won't be any downtime?
See, all the cloud service provider, okay, all the cloud service provider give you an SLA, 95.55%. Okay.
Okay.
Plus, see, in simple concept, okay, in the cloud, okay, I tell you about the reality of the cloud. They will give you one VM, okay. Now inside that VM, you have an option. Either you can deploy the replica of that VM, like every region has multiple data center, okay. Every region has multiple data center and they are away from each other. They called it availability zone, okay. So while deploying your server, okay, while deploying your server, you need to select how many data center the server should be deployed, or availability zone. If you select 2 data center, so automatically a primary and secondary server will be deployed on both the data center. They will do the replication. Not only that, if primary goes down, the secondary will be secondary will be promoted as a primary. Okay.
Okay, so it is up to the user, right? If the user selects only one primary, right, then in that case, it is like it falls on the user.
Yes. Not about the user also. It depends upon what type of application and how high availability you want it on that app. What type of resilient architecture do you want it on the app? Like if it is a production environment, we will always choose minimum 2 data center. Dev environment, 1 single data center.
Okay.
Because we have to consider the economy also. Because ultimately, rental is always a costly affair, okay? And it's a running money, is it right? I cannot own it.
Yeah. So do we have a hyper-convergence concept here in the cloud side, Gopal, distributed system?
What do you understand by hyper-convergence means? What type of?
I mean, the cluster concept, right?
Okay, when we talk about clustering concept, it is not for the VMs, okay? It is not for the VMs. Clear? It is not for the VMs. It is for the database. Okay.
Okay.
No, what he's saying actually, hyperconvergence means that the compute, storage, and integrated network integrated with one VM, like that actually. He's saying hyperconvergence is different. Cluster is different.
I didn't get it. Can you come again? Hyper-convergence, as per him. As per him. See, as per him, hyper-convergence means if he required a clustering that is available on the database side, okay? On the VM side, VMs are single unit.
Hyperconvergence technology itself, infrastructure is different actually. It has actually software. This one actually it has actually compute, network, and storage.
What do you understand by compute, network, and storage? It is already there with on-premises environment also. Everywhere it is there.
Yeah, that is the one. Actually. I think he is asking that one. Rajesh, that is the one?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is there everywhere.
They are actually Azure, AWS. They are using actually inside data center.
Okay.
They give you.
They might be using.
They are using. See, there is no. It is not like that. What I can say, they
that
like
is
if you
backend. That is in backend data center, inside data center. That is backend. We no need to bother about that for that actually, because we
no, you need to bother about it. The reason behind, when I deploy my environment in the cloud, they give you different type of instance type. Okay, when I say instance type, they will like you need to select your operating system.
Correct.
Then you select.
We have created our own virtual host and everything. That is the one actually. Hello.
Yeah. They give you instance type. Okay, when we talk about instance type, means they will give you predefined RAM, processing power, and networking.
Correct.
All three of them together as a bundle. It's not like you can put you can add 1 GB of RAM like we do it in VirtualBox. I can easily drag it and get the. They created server as per your requirement. Okay, they created server with pre-configured machine, like, and all the machine has their own features, like some of the machine are running on Intel Xeon processor, so mostly running on Intel Xeon processor only. Some of them having Intel Xeon Skylark processor. Means you're, as you go further, okay, if you change the instance size, okay, from one instant type to another type, okay, they provide you like compute based, storage optimized, network optimized, and GPU optimized. So as per your requirement, you can choose. Like I have an application which like accounting based application which required compute. So you will always use compute optimized instance. Those servers are being optimized for those particular workload. Okay. Got it?
Yes, yeah.
Then there are some services in Azure which is scattered. It is not like that it is there in one region. It is scattered around multiple regions, like Azure Data Factory, okay, which is scattered around multiple regions. Okay. Then we have Cosmos DB, means you are which is a NoSQL fully managed database, which is being scattered around, means you upload your data in one region, it will automatically be replicated in multiple regions. You need to just enable the service. Okay. Plus Azure provide you with accelerated networking also, where but it is not available with all the server. You need to go for higher end instance, where you means when you accept accelerated networking, so they will automatically connect your VM with the physical NIC and you will get a faster speed. Then Azure provide you with hyper virtualized instance also nowadays, means previously they don't give you that hyper virtualized. Nowadays they are giving you some V3 instance. So what you can do is on top of your VM, you can do again a virtualization, because already you have virtualized, the cloud has been virtualized, but on top of that you want to run some virtualized environment, like I want to run an Minishift, or I want to run an Minikube, which required a VM platform. Okay, so in that type of scenario, you can get those type of machine also in the cloud. Plus, if you want to do machine learning, where I need to control the bare metal server also, those instance also being provided in Azure, but it's not available in all the regions. Some of the region, this type of specialized instance are available. Yeah.
So there is a question by Priya in the Q&A. We have a product developed using .NET and MS SQL. Is there anything extra to be done to make it cloud compliant?
Let me check. Just give me one. What is the question? Can you come again? I cannot see that here.
Yeah, we have a product developed using .NET and MS SQL. Is there anything extra to be done to make it cloud compliant?
See, you have created a product using .NET and MS SQL. Never go for Azure or Google Cloud. Always prefer Microsoft Cloud, because that is a compliant platform. Okay. Yeah. You can use, like for .NET, you can use Azure apps and directly deploy the application. Database, do not spin up a VM and do all the activity. For a high availability, already Azure has MySQL database, which is a fully managed service in Azure. You can use that database, so there will be no downtime. Okay, one thing, the deployment will be very easier if you use Azure apps, and database, use MySQL, fully managed database service from MySQL, or if it is Microsoft SQL also, they have it. Clear? What else?
As of now, there is only one question in the Q&A forum. If there are any other questions participants may ask now, they can also write it down in the Q&A. I'll help sir in assisting them.
Anything related to, if you want to know about Kubernetes cluster in Azure, or containerization in Azure, or how to make your container environment ACI, or what is Azure DevOps also, everything I'm open to it.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, hi. Tell me.
Yeah, how to create a pod? What basis create the pod in Kubernetes? See, this many clusters we need. What basis actually?
Pod is nothing. It is an encapsulator on top of your container image. If you have a container image, I want to deploy it on top of Kubernetes. So pod is an API. Inside that API, I put my container image and push it to the Kubernetes cluster.
Correct. How to decide actually this many clusters required, nodes required? What basis?
So depends upon application workload, what type of application workload you have it. Okay. There is like you can deploy Prometheus and Grafana and you can monitor those pod
Any
performance.
calculation is there? Any calculation?
There is no calculation. Depends upon application to application. If it is microservice, automatically it should, if the workload increase, it should automatically more number of pod. When the workload decrease, it automatically. You have an auto scaling option concept where you can do scale out and scale in anytime. Why you need to manage the workload by yourself? Let Kubernetes maintain it by using auto scaling.
Correct, but we need to create before this many nodes actually required actually for Kubernetes actually.
There also you can do auto scaling. There also you can do auto scaling where it will add more number of nodes.
No. Kubernetes means high availability purpose actually. It is managing the clusters. Am I correct?
Yeah.
How many nodes we need to create actually?
Minimum 3 worker node and 7 minimum 3 worker node and 3 master node and 7 worker node should be there.
See, what are the scaling? You told me scaling actually, scale out, scaling. Based on that workload, how do you judge actually that one? How do we judge actually? This is the based on that the 3 master nodes and 7 service nodes.
Like it has been 3 master and 7 worker node that has been done. The testing has been done by always have an odd number. The testing has been done by Rackspace, which has they are running 5,000 pod of an application, okay, which is an Lyft. If you have heard about it, similar to Uber-based application. So they have come out with the idea that minimum 3 master node for failover on the mastering side, and worker node should be always 7. Okay.
This is the thumb rule.
Yeah.
3:7.
3 master and 7 worker node.
Worker node. Okay. What is the as per you, what is the pod number actually increased actually? What is the highest pod in the?
You like if you have an recently I tried with one of the OpenShift cluster in IBM. We are working with you heard about Bank. So we used to have around 256 core processor, one machine, and around 1 terabyte of RAM. It can run 5,000 maximum pod. Till now, we have tried that much.
So there is a question.
Yeah. When we talk about containerization, so containerization is one of the advanced technology around the world. Like previously, we used to have monolithical architecture. We used to deploy it on top of a higher end server. Later on, it has been break down into smaller pieces where we need lighter weight server. So containerization means it's like an OS level virtualization. On top of operating system, you can run multiple apps with isolation. That is called as containerization. We have a course for Docker and Kubernetes also. It's for 5 days if anyone interested. Yeah. What else?
There is another question by Saura Das. I also pasted in the chat. When a file is leased in the blob storage container, what are the steps to edit the file by using the lease ID? There seems a way to do so using a PowerShell or command prompt. However, I'm not sure the exact steps on how to do it.
Just give me 1 second. Without breaking release.
Sir, what is the Docker file?
Just a second. Like I didn't work on. I don't remember the command to do it in the PowerShell, but if you open that Storage Explorer, there is an option, break lease. Or if you in Storage Explorer, the option is break lease, and there is an option. If you open the Storage Explorer, you can acquire lease also. Both the options are there. You can expand the Storage Explorer, means compared to doing it through PowerShell, there is a you need to install this thing. You need to install this Storage Explorer, and then you can easily break the lease and acquire the lease anytime. Like we mostly use it for managing our TF state file in Terraform.
I believe that's all questions we have as of now.
Ma'am, I have small. What is a Docker file? Docker file?
Docker file is used for creating container image. Okay, whenever you want to update the image, like if you update your image multiple times, so Docker file help you to update the images.
No, we have to keep into Docker file that image, or how do we?
It's a text file, okay, where you provide instruction. It is a text file where you provide instruction.
No.
Build an image.
How it is create the image? That one we have to keep in the Docker file or text file. Oh, actually, Docker create image. I understood actually a couple of that text file, but how it is that what is the mechanism going on actually inside image, creating the image and that one. Hello.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. So in simple terms, Docker files are nothing where we provide instruction. Okay. When we talk about instruction, like we provide instruction like from, like if it is a Java based application, I want to download Java, then from we will provide then we provide instruction like working directory.
We no need to create the image file.
Then we run the Docker build command, which automatically create image out of this Docker file. Okay.
Okay. You have to give a set of instructions to command that text file. Generally, it will be who will write the text file and everything.
See, it can be automated nowadays. Like if you are using Spring Boot, so you can use Stack simply. You can use Spotify plugin, which automatically create this Docker file, or you can create use something called as you can create a CI/CD pipeline in hub.docker.com. You can create a Groovy script, which will also create the Docker.
No, CI/CD actually Jenkins will take care. That is plugin.
But inside Jenkins, you can provide all the files. There is a plugin available, Spotify plugin, which will automatically create the
Correct.
image for you. In the pom.xml, you can define that I want to convert this application into a container-based image. It will do it.
Okay. Okay.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for answering those questions and for a great session. I would like to inform you all that Xebia offers Microsoft certified training on Azure. I'll be sharing my screen. Let me know if it's visible.
Yeah, is it visible? Go ahead.
Okay, so there is this course on Azure Fundamentals. It's a 2-day full day program. There is another program, which is Azure Architect Design. It's a 4 full day course. The dates are also mentioned. In the chat portal, I'll be sharing the contact details along with the feedback form. So please take few minutes of your time and share your feedback on the webinar. I will again thank sir for conducting such a descriptive and informative session. Also, if there are any questions left, drop us through mail. We'll be answering you back shortly. I'm just sharing the details with you, and accordingly, you guys can connect with us. The recordings for each session will also be shared through the mails with each one of you. And if you wish to have a word with any of our consultants related to the program, drop us a mail or call on the same number. We'll get in touch with you. It was a pleasure to have you all with us. So this concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this session. Thanks a lot. Thank you, sir, again.